All right, welcome in and a very happy Saturday to you. Welcome to June. How is that treating you right now? That's right, June 2024. Can't think of a better way to kick off this month as the summer is just around the corner than with a ton of great action on store and on tap here today. How about a little UFC 302 tonight here? Loaded card there. We're going to have Kyle Anthony, Mr. UFC himself, stop by, talk about a few of these matchups, give us his thoughts there. We've got plenty of Major League Baseball going on here today. The Pen, Ralph Michaels, has got all sorts of great stats for you guys, as well as a few charts. You know how it works with Ralph. And Andy Lang will be by here. Big WNBA game coming up, actually top of next hour is when it'll kick off with the Indiana Fever. So we'll break that game down. Plus, he'll have a few nuggets for you on the card here tonight also. So we got plenty to keep us busy here over the next hour or so. Shout out to FB Coach, Eric D, RK in the house, Titan CT, and the rest that are joining us here. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to hang with us as we get ready for what should be a pretty damn good card here tonight, and Kyle Anthony knows all about that because he's been like salivating, guys, over the last week and a half, waiting for this card like the drool. He is ready to roll on this card here tonight, and why not? Because the rumor is there may be gloves laid down in the ring here tonight, which is never a good thing. Well, it depends on who it is. But what are your overall thoughts on this card here for 302?
I love this card from a betting perspective. I'm going to be there tonight, so going to see all this action unfold live. Yes. Locked in those seats there. Listen, if it's anywhere where I don't even have to get on a plane, I'm going. I'm driving. I'm going. This is in New Jersey, not very far at all away. So, excited about it, but really some good spots here. And we'll definitely touch on that retirement thing, and I think very shortly.
Yeah. Nothing like a great UFC card in a total shithole. I'm sorry. Did I say that? I did. I am awfully sorry. It's funny. You'll be at UFC 302. I'll be at Game 6 tonight with the Florida Panthers and the Rangers. So we've got a lot to look forward to. But let's start with one of my all-time favorite shit talkers. Kevin Holland here tonight, which it feels like if there is a UFC card or a fight night, he's somewhere on it. I feel like he's just a bad rash. You can't get rid of this guy. He's willing to fight at any time, apparently any weight class now as well. Middleweight bout here tonight, main card as well. What are we doing with good old Holland here?
Yeah, so this is a short notice fight here, and there's definitely going to be, this is a banger here. I think this is going to be action-packed. I think this is a great card. Looking forward to see this one unfold live. And when you look at it, I think one of the main things when you're breaking down this fight, and maybe probably why this line is as wide as it is just how one-dimensional Oleksiejczuk really is. You know, Kevin Holland, well-rounded guy, but Oleksiejczuk really predominantly boxes, and that's something that, at this point, 2024 in MMA is not a good thing when you just kind of have one path to victory. And, he can move forward. He can throw big shots. He's got heavy hands. He's got knockout power early. He's shown that with a lot of first-round knockout finishes. But the issue is just the one-dimensional side of things and the boxing side of things. And Kevin Holland on the other side here, he is going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. So for a guy in Oleksiejczuk who's going to want to box, who's going to want to be at range and strike, that's going to be very hard. With Kevin Holland's range, he's very rangy. He utilizes that range very well. And the other part of it is that, Mikhail doesn't really set up his combinations very well. He's a guy that's going to bulldoze forward. He's going to throw big hooks. He's not going to set it up. And if he can land one of these shots, great. But if not, I think he's going to be in a whole lot of trouble. And Holland is athletic. He's explosive. He's very unorthodox, too. So there's just so many things that do go into this. And you kind of now add in the ground game. I think that is an absolute path to victory here for Kevin Holland. Oleksiejczuk can be taken down by a gust of wind. This guy just struggles really at all, just defending it, really figure out what to do on the ground. And Kevin Holland on the other side here, black belt in jiu-jitsu. He does have sneaky submissions. He will be able to kind of utilize some of those things as well, too. And I think, when you're looking at kind of how it unfolds and kind of the play here, I think that the biggest part here is there's going to be a finish. I think that really either way, I think there's going to be a finish. I don't think either one of these guys are really going to be kind of, pitter patter shots and get this to the scorecards here. So when you're looking at this spot here, I like Kevin Holland. I like the multiple paths to victory. I think he's got the ability to knock out Oleksiejczuk. Oleksiejczuk has shown that he does not have good cardio. He does not have good durability, while Holland has cardio, has durability, and out of the 7 losses that Oleksiejczuk has, 6 of them come inside the distance. So that's where I'm going here with this spot here. I like Kevin Holland inside the distance. You're getting that number around Pick'em, and you're getting off that minus 280 number here. So I like Holland, get the job done, and inside the distance at around minus 110 or so.
So the question is, and we got some great comments coming in. We'll get to here in a sec, Kyle. You're gonna love some of these. But let me ask you: does he have one-shot knockout kind of power here? Can he take if he clips Holland? And that's a big if. But does he have one-shot power where he could just end Holland?
Yeah, he definitely does. And it's going to be that first round, I think, is where it's going to be a lot of action. I think Oleksiejczuk is a guy that isn't very defensively sound, but he's going to move forward. And that's his thing. He's going to try to bully his opponent. Sometimes that's got him into, having problems where he just throws these wild shots and leaves himself open. So he does have the ability to land a big shot. But again, that 7-inch reach advantage for me is really a wide gap, and it's going to be very tough, especially in the large cage. If this was in the apex cage, that could help him. 30% less cage. He can kind of move forward, get Holland's back up against the fence a little bit, work the body. Here, I think that Holland is going to really work that range very well. So I think if he lands it, he could finish it. But I do like Holland here to get the job done.
Interesting pricing in this, too. You can probably get, it doesn't sound like this is going to the cards in your opinion at all. So if we like Holland inside the distance, something along those lines. But when it comes to getting him to the ground and wrestling, big advantage Holland? Or it doesn't sound like this guy is going, every time he's gone to the mat, he's gotten choked out. So I'm guessing Holland has a big advantage if this thing actually goes to the ground.
Well, the only issue here is the fact that Holland does not follow a game plan. So that's the only issue here is that he absolutely, he makes really stupid mistakes. The path is there. If he wants the path, he can take this guy down, and his grappling is, again, black belt jiu-jitsu, and Oleksiejczuk really is terrible on the ground. So it's there. It just depends, does Kevin Holland do it? But again, if it goes to the ground once, I think Holland has a submission opportunity there. So on the feet, the ranginess and the power of Kevin Holland and the reach, and then on the ground, he's got that ability to sink into submission. So like I said, there's just so many paths here where Oleksiejczuk really needs to fire off that big hook to really kind of cause any damage or anything for him.
Dude's averaging like a little over 3 fights a month since he entered the UFC. Holland is a beast. Keith in the chat says, Holland must be money laundering with all these fights he's taking every day. He's got to be muling for somebody. I'm with you, Keith. It's absolutely unbelievable. RK sending you a shout out, said, I've been watching Kyle all year. The return on investment has been great. Keep having him on. And he wants to know your thoughts. And we'll get to that fight here in a minute as well. And if you guys have any particular fighters you want to hear about, go ahead, drop them in the chat room. We'll get to as many as we can here. But the big rumor, I would say, the big buzz around the main fight here is with Dustin, and this being maybe his last hurrah. He's going to leave it all out in the ring. If he wins, maybe not. But if he loses, is that what we're hearing here? Hate fighters that are thinking about retirement, because that means they're already retired here, Kyle.
Yeah, and that's something you never want to hear, the R word, whether you're not at multiple shows. I've been talking about this all week, is that even if whether it's the favorite or the underdog, someone who's debating retirement is just a terrible look, even at a large plus money number. I think that's just really worrisome overall. And he said basically win or lose, he's going to probably retire. The only part about that is that he is kind of indicated that like 2 fights ago. He kind of said 2 fights ago, and even last night, hey, if I win and this, I'm looking at retirement. Then he goes out there and gets the knockout victory. So I think that there is a shot here that, win or lose, he probably retires.
Oh, well, what are we going to get? Does he have a chance at in this fight, or I mean, is Islam really going to give him a chance to hit him on time? It feels like this is going to try to go to the ground as fast as possible. How do you think this fight rolls out?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, in this spot here, it's Islam has the path, and it's obviously indicated in the line here, massive minus 650 favorite, roughly around there, and the path is there. It's just that what I don't like, we actually cashed a nice plus money ticket, plus 180 on Dustin Poirier's last fight against Benoit Saint-Denis, and that was a great, it was a nice cash, great. He got that knockout victory. The only thing that I didn't like seeing is the same problems consistently come up for Dustin, and it's really his grappling, the takedown ability, and then also just allowing opponents to get to his back. And you even saw when he fought Benoit Saint-Denis, in that round and a half, Benoit got him down twice, 3 times actually, and even there he got to his back. He was, threatening the submission on his back. He didn't get it, but he was threatening it. You even go back to the Michael Chandler fight, 3 takedowns there. You even go back to the Khabib fight. I know it's Khabib, but the Khabib fight got him down, rear naked choke finish. Even Charles Oliveira got him down, rear naked choke finish. And I think that's really where you're going to see Islam get this takedown. I think that the striking definitely for, Poirier is there. He's live, of course. The guy's got fantastic power, good hand speed, good footwork, all those things. But you can't use any of those things when you're on your back. And I think that is really what Islam's going to do. He's going to level change. He's going to press forward. He's going to look to really smother the offense, not allow Dustin to work at space. And I know that some people are saying, is Islam going to kind of look to knock him out, look to strike with him? I don't think so. I think that's just anybody who's kind of maybe betting Dustin is hoping that he stands and strikes with Dustin. But I think that this is one-way traffic. He's going to look to get the takedowns, look to get him down. And I think that's really where this is going to all unfold. Again, your retirement talks, you don't want to hear that as well on top of all of these things. So you got to kind of whittle down this number a little bit. It's obviously large. You got to whittle it down a little bit. So I do like Islam to get the submission here. Out of his last 6 victories, 4 of them came by submission. And I think that this really creates, again, the weakness of Dustin really lines up with the very, very strong strength of Islam Makhachev. So I think that he gets this takedown. He works him. I think that the submission could happen early in this fight as well. So I'm looking at, again, getting off that minus 625 number. You've got him around, submission is around even money plus a slight plus number here. I like that spot, and I think it's a very, very likely path for him here.
So let me ask you a question, because we saw Islam maybe tire out a little bit against Volk as that fight went. It felt like forever. I don't think he wants to go. Yeah, right. I don't think he wants to go 5 rounds here. So is there any value in looking at this thing going over 2.5? Is he going to go balls to the wall right from the get-go? Do you think he's going to be a little more patient, knowing the power that Poirier has, and he's not exactly going to want to get clipped right off the bat here? So does he take his time, or is this thing over rather quickly?
Yeah, I think this line opened around, I think it was 1.5 and juice to the under, and now it's at about 2.5. So I think it's a pretty good spot where this is, because I am kind of, estimating around that 2-3 mark that it does happen. I didn't bet the total there early, so it did move. But, I do think that that Islam is going to bum rush him early. Like, I really think that this is going to be something where he does not want to stand with Dustin. Dustin has a puncher's chance. We know that he's got that power. I think also if he's throwing some of those leg kicks at range, Dustin likes to do that. I think that's terrible also. I think that Islam can time some of those takedowns. So I just think it overall is just a bad sign. Also, another stat here is that in the light heavyweight division, there's never been a challenger over 35 years old to win the title. That's Dustin Poirier. He's over 35 slightly and on the wrong side of 35. So there's just so many things against him here. And at these smaller divisions, the issue is that a lot of times the skills just decline really quickly because you have to be fast, you have to be quick compared to, heavyweights and those kind of things. They've got a lot longer of a shelf life. So this is just a bad spot for him here. But I do think that if I had to kind of pick there, I mean, maybe the under 2.5, but I just think that it's actually a pretty sharp number there, and it's tough to kind of get anything on that total.
I saw over 1.5 rounds at about 145, minus 145, somewhere in that ballpark there. So I guess a lot is going to determine that first 5 minutes on what we're going to see and how he's going to do it. I'll give him this, though. I mean, Islam and all the pre-interviews and the lead-up, man, he seemed very respectful of Dustin. I mean, he's not he's giving him nothing but praise, which always worries me because that means he's probably going to choke him out in the first 30 seconds. But when you heap that kind of praise on a dude, it's usually never that good. But you're hearing it. The rumors persist. He loses this fight. It's over, right? Well, maybe, like you said, it could have been over 2 fights ago. It should have maybe, right off into the sunset here at 35. But you think this is it for him?
Yeah, because I think it's really going to be the climb back up. That's the issue, I think, for him at, over 35 years old now. If he loses this, he's going to have to win, 2, maybe 3-2, maybe, somewhere in that range. Again, I don't think that he's got, again, he's another guy that's got a lot of things going on outside the cage, really good things at all. I'm sure he's doing well for himself. So I don't really think that this is a spot where he's trying to close the show in the right way. And I think it's also not a bad retirement spot. I mean, he's fighting the number 1 fighter on the planet right now in Islam Makhachev. So I do think that there's a little bit of some problem there. So we'll see how this goes, man. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, Nate talking about he looked huge there in the meetup there with the face-to-face. And looking at Islam round 1 at plus 215, not a bad look either if you think he's just not going to give Poirier an opportunity to get to him. It could be over quick, but that seems to be the consensus in there. We do have a couple of questions, of course, and I love this one too. Keith coming in saying, Paulo Costa is the anti-Kevin Holland. He fights once every Olympic year. So that's an interesting one as well here with Strickland, because you talked about Holland not following a script. How much can we trust Strickland to follow any script in this one, which makes this very unpredictable?
Yeah, this is, Strickland has the ability here. I mean, the one thing though, and to Keith's point here is, I think it was between 2018 and 2022. He's only fought once per year. And this is a guy that UFC loved him. I mean, he came in, he was hype trained, he's a marketable guy. People liked him. It was like this whole big thing. And then he just backtracked and then he wasn't, missed weight and canceled fights and, just completely didn't seem unmotivated. But in this spot here, I think that, Strickland is a guy that it's going to be very tough for him. Both these guys are active. Both these guys are going to throw a lot of shots here. This is 5 rounds, and I think that massively helps Strickland in this spot. I think that Strickland utilizing his Philly shell, working his jab at range, the volume, all of those things, I think really fit in his favor. And the one thing that I do believe that why this fight's got some legs and can get to the decision is just how defensively sound Strickland is. Early that first round, I do think that Costa is going to be throwing some big, heavy shots. He's kind of a death by accumulation kind of guy where it's not that he throws one shot knockout power. That's just not who Costa is. He will just, come forward, throw heavy, heavy shots and kind of melt you that way. And Strickland's a guy that is just tough to hit. He's durable. Yes, Alex Pereira knocked him out, but besides for that, he's a guy that's shown to be somewhat durable. And the fact that I think that if Costa's going to be throwing some of these big shots and moving forward, I do think that the wrestling can possibly be there for him, possibly for Costa, where Dricus du Plessis had 6 takedowns on Strickland, and that even there, is a path for him. He banks around. That's what got him the victory over Strickland. So I do think think that this is going to go further than people are expecting. I think some of them are thinking maybe this could be an early stoppage of some sort, but I'm kind of leaning towards the point here of Strickland via points here. The number has come down a little bit, but it was around plus 200. And I think that, out of his last, his last 8 wins, 6 of them went to the decision. So I think this is, again, a spot where he's going to be risk adverse. He's not going to want to be throwing and trading with Costa. Also, these guys seem pretty friendly. I mean, they also seem like, the lead up to this, they this could be a glorified, sparring match type of thing. I mean, they are going to go at it. It's a fight. Anybody can win. But I do think that some of that could take away some of the tenacity of this fight, and they could work at range. And I think that this could get the decision. So I think Strickland is a good spot here, but that plus 200 number is pretty juicy.
Oh, it's really, really juicy. I mean, has Costa fought anybody that with that kind of power? And is he going to be able to absorb the kind of punishment Strickland's going to throw at him? Because we know he's going to hit him, and the significant strikes are going to be off the chart in this one. Because I don't remember Costa being any sort of great striking defensive fighter here. It looks like he's willing to take a few, which could be pretty problematic here in this one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there is that, you know what I mean? And the only other thing, too, is that Strickland, Costa, his only 5-round fight was back in 2021, and it was against Marvin Vettori, and it was a fight where it was a sloppy fight. He came in overweight. It was the whole mess. So that can fall into this. The only reason why I do think that this can go further is people are still thinking that's the Costa that we're going to get tonight. I don't really think that. I actually think he's prepared. I think that, he's going to actually, have the cardio ready. We've seen him that he can at least, if he starts pushing the pace, going hard early, yes, of course. But I think both these guys know this is a 5-round fight. We have time. And I don't think that he needs to go balls to the wall round 1. Now, I think if this was a 3-rounder, I could see a little bit more validity when you're talking about somebody like Costa at a plus number, 3 rounds. He could really go crazy in the first round and a half and win that. So Strickland's a kind of the long game guy. So I think that, again, he could last, and I just think that the cardio of Costa will be there. And I think that he's going to be peppered with shots because Strickland is not a guy that really goes for the kill. He's a point fighter. He's a decision machine. And that's kind of the path that he's gone. So I do like Strickland to just kind of hold up and not put him away. Beat the shit out of him, but not put him away.
It sounds like significant strikes I saw was right around the 126, 127 number. It feels like if it goes... It goes 5. You're going to have a lot more than that. So those couple of fights, guys, at the top of the main card, certainly opportunistic spots to jump in on. You said you love this card from a betting perspective, Kyle. So what do you got locked, loaded, ready to go on your page at WagerTalk?
Yeah, so have a 5% best bet play up. We're on a nice 6-0 run on 5% best bets. And overall, we're near 50 units in profit this year, cashed 13 of the last 15 UFC events. So really seeing the board well, and again, the one thing I would say about UFC is I know people like to bet the sexy, cards and the pay-per-views, but we're doing damage on these small-ass cards. We're doing damage on Apex cards. We're doing damage everywhere, and that's the one thing that, makes this sport worth betting throughout the year is that it doesn't stop. I always talk about no off-season. There's, our off-season is like 3 weeks. So there's always going to be opportunity to bet. So tonight, 5 plays that I do have up. 3 of them are at plus money. And I'm probably going to add one more little poke that I'm looking at right now before I, close out my betting opportunities this weekend.
All right. So there it is. Opportunities galore tonight, UFC 302. And like you said, it ain't just about the big pay-per-views, though. The edges can be found on fight nights and everything else. So hop on over to Kyle's page over at WagerTalk.com. Partner up with him tonight, as it should be one hell of a fight card. Good luck there, Kyle. Appreciate the time here. Nate is looking forward to this one here tonight, as well as a few other guys. We've got plenty of Major League Baseball we're going to talk about coming up here with the pen, Ralph Michaels, in just a few. So those baseball questions, get them ready here. We also have coming up at the top of the hour is a WNBA one. It should be actually a pretty good one. Only one game on the slate here today. and it's going to feature a couple of people that know each other pretty well here from their college days. So this should be a good one. Also, don't forget, hit that thumbs up button if you could, guys. We'd certainly appreciate it as we welcome in Mr. Andy Lang, ready to roll here, who no doubt has his finger on the pulse of a fight or two coming up on this UFC card as well. But we do, Andy, have this big WNBA game coming up with Caitlin Clark and Indiana taking on Chicago Sky and Angel Reese. Tip off in about 30 minutes. So what are we looking at here in this one today?
I'm going Caitlin Clark under 32.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Yeah, this play goes off here in a little bit. This is a client play. So Caitlin Clark, her team asks her to do pretty much everything. And I've been watching her, and it's pretty amazing how much that her team is putting on her. And so I will just go back to last game where I had an under on her 31 points, rebounds, and assists. And the game is a complete blowout. The fourth quarter, it's 20 points. And the Fever, for reasons unbeknownst to anybody else, play her every second of the game, Joe. Every second. And she goes over with 20 seconds left on 2 meaningless free throws. Why they left her in for 40 minutes to get her tired is beyond me. So I've just made up my mind. I'm playing Caitlin Clark unders throughout the season because the wear and tear that they're putting on her is quite honestly ridiculous. When you watch these games, her teammates just don't have a whole lot that they're giving to her. Boston is okay inside, but she can be clumsy at times. And Clark just came out and said these teams are being physical with me and they're absolutely hammering me. This is a person that was in college a few months ago. And this is the pros, man. You're going up against the biggest and best, and they're knocking her around. And this wear and tear, I just think, is going to keep up with her. I seriously could not believe how much they played her the other night. And now she doesn't even get a full 2 days worth of rest. I just think it's going to catch up, and I think this is just a play that I'm going to play today and keep playing forward and forward and forward because your shots are just not going to be as crisp when you're playing that many minutes. Your shots are not going to go in when you're playing this many minutes. You're not going to be hustling for as many rebounds. So Caitlin Clark, she gets all the press, but obviously the books are going to shade this to the over because everyone wants to bet an over. But for me, It's an under for Caitlin Clark on all of her stats.
Yeah, I thought that I really did. I thought that quote was amazing, Andy. I saw that this morning with her where she's like, I just feel like I'm getting hammered every time and not just like once or twice, like the entire game. She's getting
she is getting hammered. When you watch her, they are beating her up bad.
Absolutely.
Like that should have been the easiest under cash in the world the other night. Like
Yes.
she should have been out of the game and 40 minutes every single minute of the game. I don't know what the coaching staff is doing there. So.
I thought it was great too because I think the coach took a technical for her the other night against LA. I mean, but how much of that is the rest of the league being like, all right, settle down, Caitlin. You know, great. You were this big college star. Welcome to the pros. I would have to think there is going to be a little animosity in every game, at least for the next month or so, Andy, with some of these teams being like, oh, you're going to take all the headlines, huh? Oh, yeah, you're the greatest thing to come to this league, huh? I'm with you. I think this is going to be rough sledding for her, at least for another month or so here in the league until it all dies down.
On one hand, I get it. On the other hand, I completely do not get it. Let me go back to no seriously. Let me throw out a weird equivalent. Tiger Woods, when he first came on to the PGA Tour, it didn't take long at all for every golfer to really appreciate him. Why? Because sponsor money poured into the sport, and everybody made more money. Everybody got more attention. Everybody got more sponsorship deals because he brought in eyeballs. And so as much as guys didn't like him because he was winning everything, they all were pretty open. Like, hey, life was pretty good when Tiger Woods came onto the PGA Tour. Our purses doubled, tripled, quadrupled. And so, but then on the other hand, I get it when these WNBA pros have been around for years and all of a sudden this one girl comes in and gets all the headlines. So on one hand, I get it. On one hand, I don't. And listen, Caitlin Clark is the new hot topic. You want to get some ratings? You want to get some clicks? Say something bad about Caitlin Clark. It's guaranteed to get clicks. Joe, all the hot topics and all the hot buttons. FS1, the channel FS1 is basically made because of the Dallas Cowboys. It's just like if the Dallas Cowboys didn't exist, that channel wouldn't exist. So it is fun watching her, but yeah, she's getting beat up. It's a rough season.
Yeah, Fever, 1-8 on the season. The schedule has been interesting to say the least. Chicago sitting at 3-3. Ralph Michaels just sent us here, averaging 33 minutes a game, I think is what she is right now. And she's got 17.6 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists a game. So, now would be the time to continue to fade. And then there's probably going to get a point, Andy, in this season where the market, it'll bottom out at some point, at which point we should probably start looking at everything over for her while we can get it. I think that's probably a fair game plan moving forward with her.
Yeah, just I see someone, Mark says, Tiger was better than everyone, Andy. Caitlin's not the best player in the league. That wasn't the point. The point was about the attention. The point was about the eyeballs and the money generated. Doesn't matter who's the best player in the league. The comparison was the amount of eyeballs, the amount of money, and everything. So everyone in the WNBA, like it or not, they are getting a lot more attention because of Caitlin Clark. So I guess be careful. Be careful who you distance yourself from and who you get on your bad side. I would not want to be. I would not want to be against Caitlin Clark as the years go on. I think that's an uphill battle.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, Tiger didn't have ass for total
teammates.
For teammates. So because they are just trash across the board there. They got to be playing better. They have more talent than they've played, but I think there is an adjustment period here. It's going to last for a little while, but why not cash the damn tickets? Fading her while the rest of the WNBA world loves her and props her up. There's probably a pretty good opportunity here to make some money going against the crowd here while you still can. All right, that game coming up top of the hour here. You'll get that one. Only one WNBA game here tonight, Andy, but we just talked to Kyle there. This UFC card is pretty interesting. The main card, pretty much have an idea of what we're looking at there. But what about some of these undercard fights here, which is a place you love to hang out in? So tell me, is there a fight, maybe the lesser known, that you're focusing in on here tonight?
Well, I do have to add, there was a really big moment about the main event that needs to be discussed. This was at the press conferences when they do their face-offs. And Makhachev and Poirier went nose to nose. Joe, I don't even know if you saw this. They go nose to nose, and they're kind of doing their little, like, I'm going to sleep you. Dustin's like, I'm going to sleep slap you. And Makhachev's like, I'm going to take you down. It's, it's hokey pokey. And Dustin, apparently nobody told him that you do not, under any circumstances, call a Dagestani an MFer. And Poirier randomly is just like, you're going to sleep, MFer, and a light went off in Makhachev, and you just saw that fire in his eyes, and all of a sudden he stepped up face-to-face with Dustin, and he was like, you don't call me an MFer in my country. You don't call me an MFer. In that moment, I bet Makhachev inside the distance. That was I saw what I saw from Makhachev was absolute pure disdain. Yep. And I looked it up, and yes, that is one of the biggest insults you can give a Dagestani. And I don't think Dustin realized it. I would say that Dustin's team was like, when they got backstage, was like, what are you doing? That's the one thing you cannot say to him. So it was a little bit of extra fuel to the fire on that. That would be the only thing that I would add to the main event was that one. So, yeah, we can talk. It's not an exciting fight, Phil Rowe and Jake Matthews. I would actually say it's going to be one of the more boring fights on the card. But I cannot believe Phil Rowe is plus money on this one. So I'll gladly take Phil Rowe. And I will also say, if you have a book that does the point spread for the fights, like plus 3.5, this is a fantastic fight to take Phil Rowe plus 3.5. Jake Matthews has a horrific record as a favorite. He has a bunch of UFC fights, but they're pretty lackluster, and I'll just go through his last 5 of them. So he loses to Michael Morales, who's a pretty good fighter. Actually, very good fighter, young guy, up and coming. He loses to Matthew Semmelsberger. That's a horrible look. Matthew Semmelsberger is not that good. And then earlier, he lost to Sean Brady. No shame in that. But his 2 wins are to Darius Flowers, who is not very good, and Andre Fiallo, who his chin is so gone that he got cut from the UFC. And then Fiallo promptly got knocked out in his next fight outside of the UFC. So Jake Matthews is low volume. We look at, he got outstruck 84-57 against Morales in a loss. He got outstruck. He landed 32 strikes against Matthew Semmelsberger in 3 rounds. That's terrible. And then he got outlanded 37-21. He landed 21 shots against Sean Brady through almost 3 rounds. So he is not landing that many shots. His ground game is not that good. And now he faces Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe is not very high volume. Phil Rowe has an 80-inch reach. His jabs are so long. It's crazy. And when I look at Phil Rowe, he comes in and so he beats Orion Koski, who's not very good. Phil Rowe knocks him out. He should have. Great. Jason Witt, who's terrible. Phil Rowe knocks him out, which he should have. Great. Nico Price, whose chin is about as glassy as it gets. Phil Rowe knocks him out. Good, he should. Then he fights Neil Magny. Neil Magny, pretty good fighter, kind of a gatekeeper. This goes to decision, and Phil Rowe loses a split decision, which means if one judge goes the other way on a round, this is a 4-fight win streak for Phil Rowe. That's how close we are. And Phil Rowe is not fighting someone like Jake Matthews. He's fighting somebody way, way ahead. I think Phil Rowe pieces him up on the feet. He gets that distance with those jabs, and it kind of becomes this little bit of a boring fight. And I think Jake Matthews is just in over his head with this one. I really like Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe has done a ton of grappling. He's been like, I don't know why he's been going on this grappling tour, but he's facing like the best grapplers in the world, and he's losing every single one of them. But he's just like, I'm just trying to get better at grappling. I know I'm fighting the best guys and I'm getting killed at all these events, but I'm getting better. So he's got the tools. Jake Matthews should not be a favorite. He loses and disappoints all the time when he's a favorite. So the smart money is on Phil Rowe.
I feel like Matthews has been around for a while, but Phil Rowe, what's his record in the UFC? Doesn't it feel like Phil Rowe's been around for a million years as well? But what is he, 5 fights in the UFC? It's kind of crazy, Andy. I feel like he's been there for much, much longer.
So he's 10-4 in his career. He won on Contender Series back in 2019. Yeah. He loses to Gabe Green in his UFC debut. I like Gabe Green, no shame in that. And that's when he rips off 3 straight wins and then ends up fighting Neil Magny. He is another guy that fights once a year in the UFC.
Yes.
Now, he's been, like I mentioned, he's been doing a ton of grappling matches, so he's active. This is not like, this isn't one of these guys where it's like, well, we haven't seen him in 2 years. What's he been doing? What's he been doing? Like, this is a guy where we know what he's been doing. He was in a grappling contest against Craig Jones, a few months ago. So, he's active, and like I said, there's so much value on him. I don't know why we're penalizing him for losing a split decision against Neil Magny, but I'll take it. I'll take it on the plus money, and like I said, the plus 3.5 point spread is great.
Yeah, there were a lot of people were scratching their head after that decision as well. So this one here tonight, though, at plus money, opportunity to get it done. Do you think? I would guess I'm seeing fight doesn't go the distance at plus money, Andy. This doesn't go to the cards. Do you think? This
one, yeah, they just don't throw enough punches. Both guys are pretty tough. They got good chins, but I mean, here Phil Rowe against Neil Magny. This was a fight that went the distance. Neil Magny threw 29 or landed 29 strikes. Phil Rowe landed 34. This is not a high volume type of fight. I mean, against Nico Price, where he won, Nico Price landed 110. Phil Rowe landed 63. So he almost got doubled up, but he still gets gets the win. So he doesn't throw a lot of strikes. Even in his UFC debut, he got outlanded 70-42. So he doesn't throw a lot of strikes. When he does throw them, though, they've got good heat on him. They got good power. And like I said, Jake Matthews doesn't have the volume to really scare Phil Rowe. So I think this one goes the distance.
Looks like it's going the distance here tonight. Phil Rowe plus money as well. Pretty good look from Andy Lang. And way to go, Andy. You have now started a new trend. Hashtag free Caitlin is trending in the chat room. So outstanding, Andy. Way to go. Free Caitlin. Free Caitlin. That's what we've got going on here. She's getting absolutely destroyed in the WNBA. We've got plenty of MLB coming up here. Ralph Michaels will join us here in just a few. But Andy, how about on the card here tonight at UFC? What do you got for clients over at WagerTalk.com?
So I just put up a Saturday pack. It gets the Caitlin Clark is a client play. That is in there, as well as a UFC play. And we have I see somebody in the chat room. Eric has already asked about PLL. Yes, we have a lacrosse play as well as a future. So we got not one, but two lacrosse plays for everybody in that package. So Dan has been doing a fantastic job crushing lacrosse for us. So grab that Saturday pack. It gets you UFC. I'm definitely going to have another UFC play, maybe two. Plus, we'll get those lacrosse plays locked and loaded. So just grab the Saturday pack. Get you all sports over at WagerTalk.com.
All right, let's get her done here. Andy, best of luck here today. Crush it with the lacrosse bet you got going on. You got the UFC package available on his page over at WagerTalk.com. Shout out to the chat room here. Trisha Kringle in the house. Protest Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese, finna get us this money today. Wrath of Raider, very nice. A lot of Angel Reese love going on. John Warner, Angel Reese over in his props here today in the NBA. Loving the Chicago Sky, and I'm saying that because there's a million hearts after it says Chicago Sky. So I'm guessing they like to back the Sky here today. Caitlin is about to lose today. So, wow. Touched a nerve here with this big WNBA game coming up. Seems like there's a lot of Chicago Sky love in the marketplace here. Eric D. also in the house. Brayman B. Always a pleasure to see you here as we get ready for some Major League Baseball. Loaded card here today. And how many yesterday just knew in the chat room that the Dodgers were going to screw over a lot of parlays in the market yesterday? How many people knew they were absolutely going to shit themselves and not be able to beat the Colorado Rockies as nearly $3.25 favorites? Is there another game on the board here today that we should be looking away from? Because it too could be the parlay killer of the day. Nobody knows it better than the pen. Ralph Michaels in the house here. There it is. He's got the pen. He's ready to roll here today on this Saturday, Ralph. And I love some of the charts you came with here today, Ralph, because it's a big market, the Nerfy, and a lot of guys really starting to gravitate towards it and like it. You have had your finger on this from the start of the year, and you got a lot to say about what's been going on here, especially through the month of May. What have you learned so far with no run in the first innings?
You know, Joe, I did it last year, and I do a daily chart on Twitter at CalSportsLV. And what really helped me this year was splitting the home and away games. So in the chart, you see the home runs, the away runs, the overall runs. I've been posting a free play on my homepage at WagerTalk, and my free first inning plays are now 30 and 9, 77%. So I have a couple charts just to go a little more in depth. Dan posted the first one. And first, let's just talk about, do more games go Nerfies, or yes, they score a first inning run? Well, this season, overall, the top left of the chart, if you bet every game no run first inning, you have cashed 55.2%. But then I start doing some breakdowns. Take a look. If the home team with the line between the 130, the Nerfies are right about 50%. When a home team is a dog of plus 130 or more, 62.2% of those games have gone Nerfy. If there's a home favorite of minus 130 or more, 56 have gone Nerfy. Then take a look at the bottom. Totals under 7 or under, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5. You see the percentages on the right-hand side. Joe, when you're betting Nerfies with a full game total of 8 or less, take a look at those percentages. 59%,
Wow.
54.2, and 61%. And if you're betting a full game total of 9 or more and you're betting Nerfies, you'll see that so far this year, the Nerfie has been under 50%. So those teams have been a yes run first inning better bet. So is there a correlation between full game totals and the Nerfies? Absolutely. The full game totals are based on the starting pitching. The starting pitchers, 99 out of 100 times, are going to get through the first inning. So it's very important to look at full game and then those situations. And then you see I broke down the top Nerfy teams and the worst Nerfy teams are best run first inning teams, away, night and day, and favorite and dog. So best Nerfy team at home, the White Sox, 80%. Best Nerfy team on the road, the Orioles, 79%. Day games, the White Sox, 80% no run. The Orioles at night, 71.4%. The Angels, as a favorite, have gone no run first inning, 70%. And as a dog, Diamondback games, 74.1%. So a lot of information there, but it just gives you an idea to look for certain teams in certain situations when you're betting the yes run first inning or no run first inning.
So I love this chart, Ralph, especially how it correlates to the totals in games because it makes total sense, right? So the least profitable Nerfies are with, it looks like, totals 9 or better. Which makes sense, right? Obviously, if we're expecting a very high scoring games, it probably means we've got a couple of gas cans on the mound to start with, and that is not going to be good for any sort of situation for runs. But when you've got the 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5 as a total, wow, Ralph, these are pretty impressive numbers. And this is from game 1 through May 31st?
This is the highest year so far through June 1st for Nerfies in the last 10 years. So it is a little extraordinary, but again, you need to adjust with the pace of the game. Remember that, the game changes throughout. So it's not like I'm always going to bet no run first innings, but of those 39 games that I've given out, Joe, I think 37 have been Nerfies and only 2 have been yes run first innings. So until I see these patterns change, it's going to have to be 2 perfectly seamed up teams that are, both home and away, day and night, favorite dog, everything matchups, and be on current streaks for me to give out yes run first inning as the best bet.
I love it. All right, that's some great stuff, guys. Make sure you check that chart out when you get a chance. That's some great information through yesterday's games. We do have a hell of a slate coming up here today, Ralph. And if you guys have any questions about any of these games on the card, let us know. Drop them in the chat room. We'll get to as many as you can. Ralph, you must have heard Dan is behind the scenes right now because you are going right to the Philadelphia Phillies here. This is a shocker. I don't know if Dan paid you to talk about the Phillies, but you got Suarez on the mound here. So what are we doing? Sonny Gray, Suarez, 7 o'clock. So a little bit of a primetime game here to watch. And it should be a good one. The game last night was really good with Nola on the mound. What are we going to get with these 2 pitchers on the mound tonight?
Well, this is an actual client release, Joe. This is a 3% play. I do have a 4% play for sale. But, sometimes as a bettor, as a handicapper, or as a sports fan, we sometimes overanalyze games. So I'm thinking, what the hell am I missing? I get the best team in baseball with the best home record, with the team with a starter who's 9-1 this year, and I'm only laying $136. So, you break it down. Is there a reason Philadelphia is only this small of a favorite? Well, I don't think so. You look at Philadelphia. Suarez, I said 9-1. Suarez is actually 10-1 as a starter this year. Or Phillies are 10-1 when Suarez is on the mound. He has a 1.75 ERA. He has a .0819 WHIP this year. And while he's off his first loss, this was a game at Colorado that he allowed 4 hits. Now, what happened is he lost his control and he gave up 4 runs. His previous 9 starts, he never allowed more than 2 runs. So there are times a pitcher may fade and you see a regression. I don't think this is a regression. I think this is just pitching in the altitude. Maybe he got tired. He started walking some guys, and it fell apart a little bit. You look at the Philadelphia Phillies. Let's see, Dan. I want to ask Dan, our producer, this. Is a 19-2 record at home good? That's what the Phillies are since April the 15th. 19-2. In those games.
If I use my abacus, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah,
abacus says that sounds good.
How about this? An average score of 6.6 to 2.95. And then when you look at, the Cardinals. The Cardinals have played well. They've gone 12-4 their last 16 games since May the 12th. But look at their schedule. They were 10-1 as a pick or a favorite. They were only 2-3 as a dog. When you look at St. Louis longer term as an away dog, they're only 3-9, 25%, averaging 2.75 runs per game. And as I said, Gray, you look at his last 5 starts, 3 of those starts, he allowed 1 run or less. But guess what? All 3 of those starts were at home. In his 2 road starts, he allowed 11 runs in 11 innings and gave up 4 home runs. I don't know why I didn't make it a 4. I already had a 4 in place. I've been being very conservative this MLB season. It's worked very well. So actual client release, 3-star game number 965, Philadelphia with Suarez.
Yeah, I mean, just to give some context to that as well, Ralph, that the Phillies have now won by 2 runs or more in 14 of their last 20 home wins. Suarez is phenomenal at home, and I believe they have won his last 5 home starts, all by 3 runs or more. So those in the chat room that were looking to lay the 1.5, and I think Dan nailed it, right? If it ain't broke, we don't want to fix it. Dan's also throwing up here a Suarez to record a win at +140 here, Ralph. You're just going to chalk up that last outing to just a little worn down, maybe a little bit, expecting a little home cooking, sleeping in your own bed to be a much better cure for Suarez here tonight?
Well, Joe, let's look at Suarez. He still, even in that Colorado game, he allowed 3 hits and the 4 walks, so he gave up 4 runs. He still got 18 outs. He got 21 outs against Texas. The only game since his opener on May 31st to not record at least 18 outs was against the New York Mets at home on May 15th. He only went 5 innings, only gave up 4 hits, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. So I don't really remember what happened in that game, if he got in trouble or something just happened. But when in 9 of your last 10 games, you've recorded 18 outs or more, it's certainly a prop that you want to look at. Now, I'll say this. I'm old school. It's taken me a long time to start adding some of these other repertoires, the props to get into the arsenal. But that was one that if this line were higher, I might have looked that route. But, the funny thing is I was talking to my son, and he used a pitcher prop the other day on a starter to record outs. And he had discomfort and left after five innings. I mean, after five pitches or 5, you throw 5 pitches and you lose a pitcher prop because of that. There's still that thought you have to put into the process, although the price obviously is built into that.
Yeah, we also have a big home road split here for Sonny Gray. He's got almost a 5 ERA on the road, allows 5 home runs in 23 innings pitched. Not great going up against this lineup. And by the way, the St. Louis, and I give them credit for bouncing back, Ralph, it was a terrible start to the season, but they're still, to your point, just 9-15 versus teams 500 or better so far this year. So they seem to have figured some things out on the mediocre and less than mediocre teams, but they still haven't been able to figure out the teams that obviously are playing much better baseball here. We also have a much better game coming up here, Ralph. It looks like a lot of guys are focused on, for the same reasons, really. I mean, the Phillies, who wants to step in front of that lineup, but who wants to step in front of the Baltimore Orioles these days? Although this is shaping up to be a pretty good matchup, pitching matchup anyway, with Bradish on the mound taking on Taj Bradley, who was lights out against Kansas City last time out, but that was in Tampa. He's on the road here against Baltimore. The total is what, Ralph? 7.5 here, and I get it. This should be a pretty good pitching matchup here, but still feel like maybe the Orioles are a little bit undervalued here in this one.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You know, you look at Bradish, his last 3 starts. I mean, both pitchers, when you have 2 pitchers that in their last 3 starts, you have a .88 whip and a .94 whip, you're obviously going to lean the under and look at those teams. But the big difference for me here are the bats. You know, Baltimore got the 3-1 win last night. They had 11 hits. A couple games ago, they had 11 runs on 13 hits versus Boston. But I look at Tampa Bay, Joe, their last 10 starts, their last 10 games, they are batting .248, and they have not topped 9 hits. And in their last 10 games, I'm going to just count them up real quick, 20, 29, 40, 55, 58. They're averaging 5.8 hits per game in their last 10 games. I mean, that's pretty rare to see a team not topping 9 hits in a 10-game stretch. Oh, you know, you look at them, they did have 6 runs against Oakland, but in those 6 runs against Oakland, what happened? The A's pitcher gave them 7 walks. That's the only reason they got the 6. The only other time they got over 4 runs was back on May 22nd against Boston. And what happened? They had 6 walks from Boston. Well, let's see. Yep. Bradish is not going to give them 6 walks. He did have 4 walks his last game against the White Sox. So I expect him to return. He had 11 strikeouts. So his ball was really moving. He had a couple bad calls. Prior to that, he's allowed 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 0, 0 walks. So again, Tampa Bay has shown me the only way they're going to score runs is if they're facing a high walk starter, and that is not what you have in Bradish.
No, and I am expecting his strikeout numbers are just through the roof, and at some point that is going to come back down a little bit. I saw 6.5s, even I think a 7.5 starting to pop up. So there seems to be a big push in the marketplace to back Bradish and the over in his strikeouts. But I don't know if I can trust him in that spot here against this Tampa team, where many of these guys in this lineup have had some success against them over the last couple of seasons. The other great pitching matchup here tonight, Ralph, how about Minnesota handled business against Houston, who just when you think they turned a corner here, the Astros opened up 12-24 to start the season, but they still have these stretches where that lineup is very confusing. They lost 2 of 3 to the Angels at home before this last road trip. Now they lost last night against the Twins. Now they got to go up against Joe Ryan. They do have Framber Valdez on the mound, but I'm not quite sure he's the same Framber Valdez of old, too, having been on the IL already this season. So 7.5 is the total. I get that. Is this going to be a pretty good pitching matchup? Maybe the under, especially early in this game, maybe, Ralph?
Well, you talked about home and a road dichotomies in pitching. You look at Valdez at home, he's got a 1.416 ERA. And you look at what Valdez, his last couple of starts, he only gave up 6 hits against Seattle in 6 innings. That's not bad. But he walked 3 people, so he gave up 3 runs. He gave up 8 earned runs the game before against the Angels. I mean, they were a minus 215 favorite, and he gives up 8 runs. He did shut out Oakland the game before, but let's put it in perspective. He was a 245 favorite against Oakland. So you go from Valdez. He was a 235 favorite against Colorado, a 245 favorite against Oakland, and a 215 against Angels. That's 3 of his last 6 starts. It shows you the type of quality teams or lack of quality teams he's been playing. I look at Minnesota, and again, you have 2 teams that are struggling batting the ball. Minnesota did put up 6 and 7 runs the last couple games. It did just come on 15 hits. What I do like about Minnesota and what leads to Minnesota in this stretch is, they have hit 6 home runs the last 3 games, and they have taken 10 walks. So they do have patience. And again, you look at Valdez, he's not a heavy walk pitcher, but in his last 8 starts, he's given up at least 2 walks, on average, 2 walks per game. So I lean Minnesota in this game. And, Houston, I ran some numbers, Joe, just from like the last 15 days in MLB, just to give people some perspective. As a favorite in the last 15 days, I'm looking if I have the Astros marked here. Astros 6-6 is a favorite with an average line of minus 171. So when you're laying 171 over a 12-game span and you're only 6-6, that clearly is reason for concern.
Yeah, I mean, and Ryan has been phenomenal given the fact that I think the only team that really beat him up a little bit was the Yankees, Ralph. The Twins have done a pretty good job. I think they've won every one of his starts on the road so far here, and it's just so hard to trust this Minnesota lineup right now. It really, really is. And, oh, by the way, it wasn't a great, and you mentioned it, Valdez with not a great month of May. And Houston being what now? Just 5-8 in their last 13 games. They've only gone over 4 runs in 5 of those 13 games. So the bats just aren't there going up against the ace of Minnesota. It's my goodness, that's a tough spot for them in this one here. Just don't trust them yet. I can't think of 2 teams I trust less than Arizona and the Mets, but yet here we are, Ralph. Manaea on the mound here. Interesting strikeout prop too, of 4.5 here. I don't know how we're going to get the 4.5 with him, but certainly the Diamondbacks have had problems against righties, but they've been much better against lefties so far this year. What do we trust Manaea and the Mets enough to be able to back him at home here, Ralph, or are we just looking that neither of these teams are probably going to score an awful lot of runs in this matchup today?
Well, you look at hitting, and let's start there. You have 2 teams that are both batting under 220 for the last 7 days. I talked about teams not getting the 10 hits in the last 10 games. Well, Arizona, back on May 21st against the Dodgers, did have 12 hits when they pulled the upset as a 150 dog. But in their last 9 games, they have not reached the 10 hits. Now, the Mets, I don't know what happened to the Mets yesterday. I actually had, as I said, I've been loading a free, and it's been a 1% play, Nerfy play, Joe. And I do have a client-released Nerfy play I do want to give out here in a minute as well. But sure. I was 30-9 on those, and they've had great success. Well, yesterday, full disclosure, I had Arizona and the Mets, no run first inning, and I checked the scores, and it was 4-3 after 1. So the Mets had 14 hits yesterday. Let's see, I don't know the last time if the Mets had 14 hits this season. I'm going to go look real quick on the database as we're talking, but I don't know who stood in for the Mets yesterday or what happened or where they went to lunch. But to me, you don't change an opinion on a team because of one game. If it's multiple games, I am totally fine with that. But let's see. They did have 15 hits against the Marlins back on May 15th. And they did have 14 hits against the Dodgers on April 19th and 14 hits against the Royals on April 12th. So never say never. They can get the 14 hits. I just don't think it'll happen back-to-back games. Again, with these 2 offenses, the only way I would look is the under in this game. But again, not close enough for me to get there to the window, just because, again, Sassoni, a 0.692 road ERA in 3 starts is as good as it gets. Manaea, as you said, a 1.062 ERA the last 3 starts. So under for me, no real opinion on the sides because I'm not going to back the Mets, and I just don't have enough faith in the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, well, you mentioned 14 hits, and of course, this coming after a players' meeting where one of their relievers told the world, this team sucks. And he wasn't lying, Ralph, at all, given the fact that they went 9-19 in the month of May, but they have put a couple of wins together, and Manaea has been, if nothing else, consistent for them so far. But I'm with you. This is a tough. Both these teams are tough to back here, just given the fact that you're really not sure what you're going to get run-wise from either of them there. We got a couple more questions
Joe,
in the chat, Ralph, but you got a no-run in the first inning play that you want to give out as well.
Let me just quickly say about the Mets. Teddy and I talked about the Mets on WagerTalk today. And remember the catastrophe Thursday night. Alonso got hurt. Their closer got hurt. He's been a shit show, but he is out. And then the reliever throws the glove into the stands and get kicked out. Well, those 2 relievers were 2 of their top 4 relievers inning-wise, and you're missing your leading hitter. Lindor calling the team meeting kept me off fading the Mets that game. I am a believer when it's a player-only team meeting and you have a true star calling that meeting, I usually will not fade that team. It usually does keep me off or get me on that side. So do pay attention to that. It is something that I do believe in. As I said, Joe, yeah, I do have a Nerfy play. This is an actual client release. Just so you know, if you haven't bought any of my packages, this is still the first year I've given them out consistently. So I have only made them 1% plays, where most of my MLB sides are 3 or 4%. So I've been on the conservative side. But it's the Pirates in Toronto, under half a run in the first inning, and we're only paying $1.20 juice. Very good juice for this. Well, let's see. Toronto has 5 straight Nerfies. They're 16-1, no run first inning the last 17. And let's see, the last time they scored a run in the first inning, Joe, May 4th. That's 22 games. The Toronto Blue Jays have not scored a first inning run in 22 games. The Pirates, 4-1, no run first inning, and 5-1 the last 6 road games. And then in those home road splits that I showed you, the Pirates, number 2 Nerfy day games, the Blue Jays at home, number 4. The Pirates, the number 4 Nerfy team as a dog. Toronto, number 3 as a favorite. Pirates, number 3 Nerfy teams in day games. So game 9-6-7, 9-6-8, first inning, under a half, Pittsburgh and Toronto with Keller and Kikuchi.
What Nate in the chat wants to know, do you ever look at weather as a factor when you're handicapping Nerfy picks, Ralph?
Well, not as much, because I'm just basing it on, more so the batters than the starters. Obviously, if the wind's blowing out at Wrigley, I'm not going to go Nerfy. But if the wind's blowing out, you're also getting a total of 9 or 9.5 or 10, and I'm not going to do that. If it's blowing in, you're getting an under total. So it rarely will take me off a game unless it is like crazy weather. And I read something the day before that it happened, because again, the Nerfies are a unique animal. You look at what teams score, what teams don't, and teams just get into patterns. And when the top of the lineup's going well, it goes well. When the bottom of the lineup doesn't, when the top of the lineup's not going well, it's the Nerfie. So it's much more hitting in current form for the batters, even then the starters that are involved.
Yep, I love that there. Lord Farquaad in the house here as Eric D is throwing out random Belarus handball picks, I think, Eric D. That's interesting. Titan CT, Ralph, wants to know, what are you thinking about the Texas Rangers who got smoked by Miami yesterday on the road in Miami? Weathers on the mound here today, who, by the way, the quietly, Ralph, the starting pitching for Miami as well as the relievers have been stringing together a whole lot of shutouts over the last month here. Weathers hasn't given up an earned run, he gave up just one earned run in his last 3 starts, 5 quality starts, in fact, throwing at least 6 innings in each, 4 of those being on the road, and now he gets to take on a Rangers team that is much worse against lefties than righties here. So what gives here? Lorenzen on the mound for Texas, Weathers for Miami. Do we trust Texas to come back in this one here today?
Well, you look at year-to-date numbers, and Texas is averaging 4.4 runs per game, and Miami is averaging 3.8 runs per game. But you look at current form, the Rangers on the road, who knows how bad they're hitting? I mean, it is just they are playing so poorly. 6 hits and 2 runs against Miami yesterday. Arizona, they did have 6 runs on 8 hits because they had 5 walks. And then you go back, 3 runs, 2 runs, 2 runs, 4 runs, 2 runs, 1 runs. You know, Lorenzen has he has a sub 0.9 whip, but I am just not backing Texas. I will not play a game on Texas unless they are a dog in a favorable matchup and where I'm maybe perhaps getting a run and a half. And you look at Weathers, you said it, Joe. How about a 0.43 ERA his last 3 starts, a 0.6 whip. And, he went to Detroit. He was a 170 dog. What happens? Arizona wins 1-0. He goes against Milwaukee. He's a 130 dog. They win 3-2. You go to Arizona. He's a 115 dog. They win 3-1. So I will say this, you have 4 straight unders for Weathers when he's on the mound. And that's something you have to look at. When you look at Lorenzen has 3 straight unders and 4-1 to the under his last 5 starts. So to me, this is an under game. It's more an anomaly to me that Miami had 12 hits, although they did have 16 hits the last game against San Diego. So, as I said, I'm not going to change my mind when a team has 1 good game hitting, but when you put together 16 hits and then back-to-back 12 hits, that's enough to get me to not use the under in that side. But with that said, and with Weathers on the mound, I didn't use this game, but those 2 reasons clearly would have me on Miami in this situation.
Yeah, and again, I'll say it, the splits are ridiculous with Texas against lefties. His outs total, which is an interesting prop here for Weathers too, 16.5. And when you got guys like Austin Gomber, Patrick Sandoval, Alex Wood, JP Sears were all able to get 17 or more outs against this lineup of Texas, Weathers at home might not be a bad look here in some capacity today. And Ralph, we got one more game here they're looking at. I apologize, Eric D. It wasn't Belarus handball he was referring to in the chat room. It was actually lacrosse. My bad. A lot of the same names there, apparently, it looks like. My bad. I'm sorry about that. The Yankees. We got a lot of chirping going on about the New York Yankees in the chat room here, Ralph. Boy, oh boy, welcome home, Aaron Judge, last night. But I believe Logan Webb on the mound here today for him. So let's see, plus 105. Is this, I mean, granted, they're throwing basically everything in the kitchen sink on the mound for right now in this game. But the ace on the mound for the Giants, can you fade this Yankees lineup right now?
Well, Joe, I think I've used having a hell of a baseball season, and I think I'd use the Yankees and Dodgers. I've given them out 4 or 5 times, and I'm 0 for 4 or 0 for 5. So probably whatever I say on the Yankees, make sure you go the other way. I'm saying, how can the Yankees be this low of a favorite, or how can they be a dog? And it's not worked for me. So, I'm going to go to the database real quick, Joe, and take a look at, it's just going to take me 1 second. I'm going to pull up what the Yankees are as a small favorite or a dog. So if I take all the games as a dog or a favorite to, let's say, 120, line greater than or equal to minus 120, and I am going to find that the Yankees are 16-6. So that's going to say to me, the average line of minus 100.9 or minus 101, they have been a situation as a 6 of those wins are as a 115 favorite. So they still get 10-6 in that role. Again, I have not had a good feel on the Yankees. I look at their situation, and they've won 3 in a row. When they lost 2 in a row, they lost the series finale against San Diego. Then they lost the opener against the Angels. When the Yankees are playing like they're playing, I'm not going to go against them, but I'm also not going to back the Yankees. Last 6 games, they're averaging under 8 hits a game. Remember, they only had 9 hits last game, but they had no walks. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. They had 17 walks the last 2 games against the Angels. There's not many MLB teams that you see where you're not going to have any walks in that situation. So, hats off to, who was on the mound for San Diego yesterday? It was Stroman, right? Stroman got there with 6 strikeouts. The team had 6 strikeouts and no walks. So I'm going to lean the Yankees just because it's the Yankees in that role. I look at the Giants. The Giants are only 7-16 against teams with a winning record. So they're beating the poor teams. They're at 500 for the year. So that makes them 16-7 against crappy teams and 7-16 versus the good teams, are right around that area. So to me, and remember this, the Yankees are the number 1 most profitable team against righties, and they're the second worst team against lefties. So if they're playing a righty, there's only one way I'm going to go. It's either the Yankees or pass. When the Yankees are facing a lefty, I have no problems looking to fade them.
Yeah, I would keep an eye, too. Logan Webb, 4.5 strikeouts in this one, and he has gone over that number, I believe, in 5 straight now. The Yankees alone struck out 6 times against Hicks and company last night, and he has been absolutely lights out at home, too. He is their ace. Let's be realistic. He started a little bit slow, but really has been getting better start after start here, Ralph. 4.5 Ks seems a little bit low for Webb at home here. He's got at least 4 strikeouts in 11 of his 12 starts. He's gone over this in 5 straight. So far be it from me. Yankees may score 12 runs, Ralph, but that doesn't mean they're not going to strike out 5 times in this game. I think that's a fair assessment.
Joe, and as you said that, let's look at the Yankees the last 6 games. 6 Ks, 10 Ks, 7 Ks, 8 Ks, 12 Ks, 13 Ks. So you're averaging over 10 Ks in your last 6 strikeouts. And, when you're betting a strikeout prop, you obviously want a guy that's going to have strikeouts, but you also want to have a guy that's going to eat up innings to give him enough opportunities. Well, you look at Webb's last 4 starts, 7 innings, 6 innings, 6 innings, 7 innings. So he's averaged 6.5 innings in those last 4 starts, giving you many opportunities to face a Yankees team that doesn't mind taking a strikeout, go searching for that long ball.
Yep, and one final one there coming in with Ralph, if you look at just the last 10 games of the Chicago White Sox, I'm trying to see, outside of a straight-up win, which I believe happened back on the 21st of May against Toronto, I don't see them losing a 1-run game at all here. Do you, by some chance? 3-1, 7-2, 5-1, 4-1, 5-3. The point being, My goodness, here. I got it. They got Crochet on the mound, but he's not home. He's on the road. He's been much better at home. I think this kid's going to be phenomenal, but he's not going to get any run support here. And it feels like anything run line or maybe even alternate market here for the Milwaukee Brewers is not a bad look. The White Sox are just unbettable. Are they not, Ralph?
Well, Joe, you made a very, very astute point. I'm looking at the database, okay? And
by the way, just look at the money line and the run line. It's absolutely unbelievable here. You can just bet Milwaukee minus 160 on the money line, or you can take the 1.5 with White Sox and you're still laying $1.60. That's the most absurd thing I've ever seen.
Well, you know what I would say, Joe, is that, the White Sox, the last time the White Sox have lost by 1 run was April 30th. So that is about 30 games they have not lost a game by 1 run. Now, like you said, they did win 2 games in that stretch, but every loss up until then has been multiples. Now, remember, this White Sox pitcher came straight from being drafted up to the majors a few years ago, got hurt, sat out, and then he was so impressive that he was their opening day starter. So he is the real deal. I would say this, Joe, if you have any inkling to take the White Sox, I don't know why you would. They're batting .202 the last 7 games. Milwaukee's batting .290. But if you do like the young pitcher, I would say you take the White Sox first 5 plus the half of run. But if you're going to go full game, I completely agree. You have a bullpen. The Milwaukee bullpen is not good, but the White Sox bullpen is has a whip of 1.5. So I would not lay Milwaukee minus a half a run first 5. I would pass that part of it, but I have no problems laying the run line on the full game. So big distinction with the pitcher on the mound. And I'll tell you what, let's see. The White Sox, Joe, are 14-43, right? So with Crochet on the mound, they're 5-5, which means they're 9-38 without him on the mound. So the White Sox have gone 5-5 in his 10 starts. So again, keep that in mind if you're going to lay that price.
Yeah, the problem is Crochet's got to eventually give way to that bullpen, which is just going to light a match and pour gasoline and give it up. Same play, Ralph, last week. I believe his last start was against, if I'm not mistaken, last week it was Detroit in which he faced there. And it was a pretty, or maybe it was Baltimore that he had faced. Yeah, and he fantastic in the first 5, was absolutely unreal. Then the bullpen came in and the wheels fell off and they got absolutely destroyed. In fact, they were winning last night heading into the 7th inning. And once again, that bullpen comes in and is just uncompetitive. So he is the only guy worth considering. And Fetty, by the way, last night, who did, in fact, I believe, cover the first 5. This kid is another cover the first 5, but full game, Ralph. I'm going to the alternate market here and laying 2.5 runs with Milwaukee because that's just what it has been. It's one of the few games, Ralph, I wouldn't mind doing that in.
Joe, you look at Crochet, and let's see, if you're a White Sox fan, this kid goes 6 innings, gives up 3 hits, has 11-1 to strikeout walk ratio, and you still wouldn't win the first 5 because they were down 2-1 after 5 innings. So, even when he gives an incredible performance, you still are in that opportunity. And, Joe, that's the reason. You know what? It's, year in and year out when I do, I'm working on the NFL guide right now doing some things, and you look at crappy teams, and I would say 70 to 75% of your elite teams, not those at the very top that are public teams, but just that next level, those good teams cover 70% plus. Those crappy teams cover 30% plus. The old adage, be very careful if you're going to lay money on a crappy team because they're a crappy team for a reason. Don't try to pick the one or two spots to bet on a crappy team because you think there's value. Make sure there is legitimate value. They got players back. Players were hurt. They're returning. They are now on a winning streak because of this. Not just a random 2-game streak where the other team made 2 or 3 errors and the team won for it. When you're betting a bad team, make sure they are legitimately a mediocre team or have some positivity on them before you start wagering your hard-earned money on a bottom feeder.
Yeah, I agree, Ralph, 100%. And I almost say the Cubs are a bad team. And yet they're still laying money here today at home against Cincinnati and Hunter Green. Also in the chat, if you guys who are joining us, and a big shout out to Deshaun in the house, Nick NYC, Austin. We appreciate you guys there. Tofa in the house, Lord Forquat is mentioning who in the hell would fade Caitlin Clark against her nemesis, Angela Reese. 6 points, 3 boards, 1 assist so far in the second with about 9 minutes to go there. Plenty of time for her to get absolutely trucked in this game. Let me ask you this here, Ralph, and let me ask the chat room as well. If you guys could hit the thumbs up, we'd appreciate it. There are a couple of $3 favorites on the board here today. Could you, and by the way, Lord Farquaad just brought out -2.5 for the Brewers, Ralph, plus 230. I'm in. Sold me. Yeah, I'm in. You got me. I'm covered. I'm in. Which $3 favorite scares you the most right now? Because I believe Chris Sale on the mound for the Braves is a $3 favorite, and I believe the Dodgers once again are a $3 favorite in some way, shape, or form. I can't think of anything that scares me more. Maybe is this Colorado team that bad, Ralph? Or are teams sleeping on them here? Because they've done this now to a couple of pretty good teams, especially at home. Now they're in Dodger Stadium with a 4-1 win last night. Dodgers looked gassed. But do we trust the Dodgers or the Braves here in a $3 favorite role here? Seems pretty scary with both, no?
Well, okay, Joe, I just went to the database as you were typing it in. I looked at all the teams this year that were a 200 favorite. The Phillies are 15-4. They're the most profitable team as a favorite of -200 or more. The Braves are 14-4, but the way they're playing, they're just not going to be a favorite anymore. The Padres are 1-3, and the Dodgers are actually -1.9 units. They're 16-7 when laying a price of -200 or more. So we remember the bad beats. But you got to remember the Dodgers are a -200 favorite so often that they're going to lose some of those games. So they are still 16-7 as a favorite of -200 or more. So let me take a look. If you're laying 200, that means the dog is going to be about +180. So if I take the teams that are +180 or higher this year and see who's the most profitable team, I am going to get the Oakland Athletics. When they're a dog of +180 or more, they're actually 5-5 this year, +5.5 units. No surprise who's at the bottom. The Rockies are 5-12, and your Marlins are 2-7, -3.3 units, and the White Sox are 3-16, -10.15 units as a dog of -180 or higher. You know, I did not have any love for, many of those teams. And I do want to mention this, Joe. I'm going to sort of just waffle out on the question because I looked at all those and none jumped out at me as finding value as one or the other. But I often hear people say, you have to be a fool to bet the run line on a home team because you're laying the 1.5 runs, but there's many times you don't bat in the 9th inning. Well, let me tell you this. Look at the lines. If you have a 200 favorite on the road on the run line and 250 on the home team on the run line, folks, it's a 70-cent difference. The Vegas line or the international line is worked into that. There is a reason those home teams are laying less, because you're not botting in the bottom of the ninth. And if you bet every minus 200 favorite home team on the run line, you are actually more profitable than betting the road teams as a 200 favorite on the run line. So just sharing some database information with you, not telling you to bet one way or not telling you to leave bets off, but don't have that mentality that it's silly to bet a home team on the run line because they may not bat in the bottom of the ninth. The database tells us they're still more profitable than the road team for two reasons. They're playing at home, they tend to score more runs, and there is an adjustment in the Vegas line, a significant adjustment in the Vegas line.
Yeah, big time too. And Chris Sale, and I believe R.U. Zen in the house here. Happy Saturday. Braves 9-3 as a $3 favorite or more there. F and Bob saying, yeah, Dodgers are going to get it done today with a little sleep last night. Wash the stink off of that loss to Colorado and get back out of there. But a lot of you guys in the chat room were not happy with that result last night with the Dodgers and the Rockies there. So this is going to be interesting. No FB coach. That was not a dial-up phone. Although, Ralph, you have to show us where you put the quarter in. But also, one final news and note here, and appreciate you, R.U. Zen and Edward. The Rangers tonight? No, I'm going to the game. Please don't. Please. No, absolutely no Rangers. I don't want to be the reason that the Florida Panthers don't get it done, but I don't see that happening here. I also took the Rangers under 2.5 goals in this game here tonight, and I am expecting Florida to close them out in 6. And then, of course, I do think maybe Dallas and Edmonton going 7 games. Ralph, have you dabbled in the NHL playoffs at all with the props?
You know, I have not, Joe. I had a decent NHL season, but I don't know the players well. I follow some of the goalies, and the database does not have the series and the rounds and that type of situation that the other sports have. So I don't have that historical data to fall back into. So I've never really been an NHL fan. I'm becoming more and more of a fan, but I'm still in that quasi-fan mode. So, you know, I have followed the Panthers. I actually went down to a Panthers game earlier and do follow them, but can't give you any interesting tidbits on this game or series.
Well, I'll tell you this, the total was juiced as high as to the under about 145 last night. It looks like it's going the other way a little bit here. Minus 135 now for the under with Shesterkin and Bobrovsky and net here tonight. But I like the Rangers under 2.5 goals. Give me another shot at a title here, Florida Panthers. Let's get it done. Ralph, what else you got up at your page at WagerTalk?
Well, one MLB play, a big 4% play, 90% winning days the last 10, number 1 in profit overall at WagerTalk the last 7 days, a 19-6, 76% all sports run. And again, make sure you visit my homepage daily. There are still been 1% Nerfy plays. I post that free each day. Shortcut to my homepage, wt.buzz/RM. You see it there on the screen.
Love that. And guys, if you did not see it earlier, do yourself a favor, screenshot this. And Ralph, is this chart available on your Twitter page as well? Your Nerfy?
Joe, I'll put that up. And I also have one more shot, Dan, if you show it real quick. These are just year-to-date charts, Joe, for every team, which gives you their Nerfy percentages,
yes.
Home, away, day, night, favorite dog. The blues mean they are the worst Nerfies, or best yes run first innings. The brown highlights are the no's. So both charts will be up on Twitter at CalSportsLV in just a few minutes.
All right. I love that, guys. Do yourself a favor. Get that downloaded. And by the way, Ralph, you said you update that, throughout the week? or how do you get? How do folks follow that chart with the updates?
I do a daily yes/no report, Joe, for every team, home and away, the line of the game, and they scored. And one thing to note that is important as well, if you're betting yes and no run first innings, you'll see that I color code the sheet. If the home team scored, if the opposing team scored, or if both teams scored. So, like say for Toronto as example, I told you it's been 30 days since they scored in the first inning. Even if their opponent scores a first inning run where you might lose the Nerfy, if Toronto goes back in that situation, I'm still not afraid to go hop back on them. So I look at what teams have done, not what the team has done no run first inning, but what the team has done itself, scoring runs or not scoring runs, and mashing those two to get to that 30-9, 78% record.
Yeah, love that. Well worth, guys, investing in the time to check that out. You definitely want to have this information handy to you if you're going to play the Nerfy market here. D-Rec 49 going with the Cardinals and Phillies. No run in the first inning. Dan, do you put your stamp of approval on a Nerfy here tonight with the Phillies and the Cards?
Yeah, Ralph got me all nerfied up. So yeah, let's Nerfy away, Joe. Let's do it.
We got a Nerfy, we got bourbon, we've got Champions League games coming up, we've got NHL Playoff Game 6. We got a lot going on here. Edward says Rangers going to win this cup this year, period. Well, then take them at the plus 900 right now to win it all before they win this game tonight, because this will probably be the best that it gets. And also, call me crazy. As long as Edmonton doesn't win, I think we are good to go. Effin' Bob on the Rockies. RU Zen also pushes out the Dodgers. Just 2-3 as a $3 favorite this year with a minus 50% ROI. So fade or pass for RU Zen. And I got to believe if you're looking at the $3 favorite to use in any sort of parlay piece, I think Atlanta's the better choice today in those two $3 games. Ralph, best of luck here today with everything you got going on here over on his page at WagerTalk.com. And that'll do it here. And I can't wait. We got, 5 days until the NBA finals begin next Thursday. Make sure you guys join us during the week. The NBA Tip-Off Show will be back. We have a lot to unpack with that series. We got a couple of future bets that you may want to invest in, tons of props. So it's kind of one-stop shop here at Wager Talk TV. Hit that thumbs up for us if you could. Those D-Rec and company, those of you joining us on IG, hit that follow button. And more importantly, guys, let's cash a few damn tickets here today and this weekend. So great stuff as always, chat. We love you guys. Make sure you come back and join us again on Monday. Another full slate of action here on Wager Talk TV. Until then, crush it tonight, guys. We'll see you again on Monday. Good luck.